Joining a jumper group is a great way for you to get started in Rise of Kingdoms. Oh. Um. Well, maybe not. Let's learn more about this. What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another Rise of Kingdoms gameplay video from your very own Shappy Gaming. And today I'm joined by a very special guest, and his name is Vast. Vast, say hello to everyone.
What's up, everyone? My name is Vast. I am the founder of a restart project that goes by the name of the Shogunate.
Very cool. Well, thank you for coming on. Now, for all those jumper leads in the comment section getting excited, this is not a promo video. Our goal here is to discuss this major change that Lilith just snuck into an update and try to understand what this is going to mean for players going forward, because this is a pretty huge change, and Vast is pretty critically impacted by it. So I'm really curious to see how all this is going to manifest and what it's going to mean for jumper projects everywhere. So Vast, what's your take on this? What do you think this means for jumper projects, both holistically and for your project specifically?
Well, for projects as a whole, I would say this changes it completely changes the meta that has been going on, where projects typically go with two main alliances and one support alliance. And that was due to the jumper cap that all the restart projects know and love, where it would limit the amount of people that could jump into your kingdom. Well, now that jumpers are suspended, that jumper cap, it goes away with it. This leaves room for many times more players to actually get into the kingdom early on, making the meta change to bigger projects, upwards to 6 alliances instead of 3.
And the idea behind
That
that
said,
is you can create
oh
more accounts without having to have people just go through the jump process, right? They'd all be native accounts essentially.
yeah, they would all be native accounts, or as of right now, you could go through the sleeper process, which is relatively newer compared to the jumper process. A little more complicated, but that is another option for the new players.
And walk us through the sleeper process for those that may not know. I know many of the audience probably knows what jumpers are, right? The concept behind jumpers is you create an account in perhaps one of these kingdoms that we're looking at here, which is a couple days old, and then you would jump to a kingdom on the day that it opens with your account already being somewhat fleshed out. But how exactly does a sleeper work?
So a sleeper is similar, where what has previously been done is you would make a booster account, uh, and you would start your sleeper, your main account, in a kingdom, and then do a mini jump that lasts for, like, where you stay in that kingdom for 1 day, and then jump into what I call it the grind kingdom, where the sleeper process actually starts. From there, you bring both your main and the booster,
And you
and
don't
from
have to
there,
have beginners migrations to do that?
yes, you do. Uh, but yeah, so how I imagine it going forward is you're just gonna make your account, and you're gonna stay in that kingdom for about 20 days, anywhere between 17 to 20 days, depending on what kingdom you want to go to.
Okay.
And that will maximize the amount of profit you could get in that starter kingdom to then go to the main kingdom. But unlike the jumper process, there is no beginner's immigration item. You have to purchase an item called a passport from the Alliance shop, which either costs 600,000 individual credits or $5.
Got it. So you can still jump using a passport, but are there not restrictions on how frequently you can migrate early game? So you if you're in an early game kingdom, you can still migrate to another early game kingdom, you're saying?
Uh, yes, you are able to do that, but once you do migrate, you are stuck there for the next 30 days. So you have to make this decision pretty carefully and make sure you're going into a good kingdom because you'll be stuck with them for the next month.
Wow. That's fun. So it's certainly changed things at least a little bit. Do you think that your group is going to benefit from this? Are you guys going to get bigger or smaller, or do you think that starting the game is going to change?
So I believe our group, we are looking for a fourth alliance, and we will gradually expand, but we're not going to just immediately jump into making six alliances unstably. So we're going to gradually expand until a few weeks before our starting date, just to stabilize, stay stable, and all that. And I imagine that's what several other jumper projects are currently in the process of. But this does change the early game a little bit in that I envision a lot more kingdoms being a little more unstable as the arms race for the top one spot, the top alliance spots will be a little more hectic as there's no longer that week long advantage you would typically have.
Yeah. That makes sense. And yeah, I'm looking at this. You can migrate. There's same season immigration allowed at that point. So that's good to know. It sounds like things are a little crazy. Do you think this is a good change overall, or do you think it's a bad change? I'm kind of wondering why you think Lilith did this.
So good change or a bad change? I've been viewing it from both sides. I've been following along with what's been happening in the official Rise of Kingdom server and been thinking about it myself, but there's definitely two sides to what's going on. One side is arguing that this will actually drive players away. It will drive some of the older players that want to restart or returning players that want to restart. It will drive them away, and it'll make, and like I said earlier, it has the potential to make those early game kingdoms more unstable, which will give the new players a bad environment, potentially making them leave. But what I've also heard is that the jumper process actually helps make the kingdoms unstable. Me personally, as a jumper, I disagree with that, but I do see they were making some good points.
Yeah,
I do
I
I
could
lean
totally see
more
that.
towards this being a little negative, but I do see some positives in this update.
I think the intention, if I'm putting my Lilith hat on, and I'll make sure I do some cool video editing, so I'm wearing the Lilith logo. If I'm putting my Lilith hat on, I'm thinking that the intention was we want all players to start on the same day, right? We want everyone to be on the same page before things get crazy. And actually, when I started, there weren't jumpers weren't quite as popular. And so you did get a lot of natives day one in that kingdom that were just trying to figure everything out at the same time. I do think what jumpers bring is you do get kind of a structure to your kingdom, which is helpful early on because you're not battling as much in the early days, which can long term be detrimental to a kingdom. Where with the jumper, I mean, you've kind of got the R5 already figured out and already established really before the kingdom even opens.
Right, right. Yeah, no, I definitely saw Lilith's intention with kind of making everyone have an equal start so that the older players can't just bully the new players, which was one of the benefits I saw coming into this. But yeah.
Do you think the day one experience in game is going to be different now? At least, it sounds like at least for the first 20 days or so before you can get a passport, it's going to be a little bit different because everyone's primary account probably will be starting on that same day, right?
Yeah, I think so. It will be a little different in that you won't projects won't be able to like actually gauge the quality of their members right from the get go in the Final Kingdom because what the jumper process allowed was leadership to be able to see like who is putting more time and effort into their account, and you would have higher power requirements in the early game. So I imagine the power requirements are going to be lower, uh, but I see the activity of the player being a higher need uh, than before because everyone's going to be starting on the same playing field. So the amount of time a free to play player can put in compared to others would have a lot more significance early on because you don't have those 7 or 8 day jumper process anymore to kind of help you out if you don't have as much time as others.
Right. And on that same note, right, we're talking about free to play versus low spend, etc. Do you think that this will increase the spending that happens on day one? Because I know whales, I want T4 within the first week.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, I do think this, it depends. I would say it depends on the kingdom. If there are a few big spenders in the kingdom, well, several spenders I've met over the past couple of years kind of want the top one spot. So I could see them going back and forth, spending money to keep grabbing the top one spot. But how I don't think it'll change day one spending drastically. Um, well, I would say day one spending does increase um, through this update because spenders would spend a quite a hefty chunk of money in the jumper process and save those items in their inventory to then spend on the or the first day of the final kingdom, and they wouldn't spend as much on their first day of the account. With that process going away, I do imagine the amount of chests you would see in your alliance going up, and I could see a few smiles on the free to play players' faces as they see some gold chests dropping in their alliance on the first day.
Hey, that's not a bad deal. If there were gold chests dropping in my alliance on the first day, my account might actually be somewhat decent now. Ooh, we love a little self roast. Drop a like on the video if you're enjoying that part. Um, so how is your group handling this? Do you think that you guys are going to be okay? Do you think this is the end of jumper groups as we know it, or is it only going to get more complicated and more popular now?
So, will it end jumper groups? It will end jumper groups, but they will rebrand into a mix of sleeper accounts or plain old just plain restart accounts where you just make the account in a kingdom and you stay in it.
Right.
Uh, so I don't think it will get rid of them. The projects will adapt and change as necessary, and if they don't, then they won't work out. My project itself, we saw this change coming from a few months ago, so we have a few ideas cooking in the back rooms over where the leadership talks. Um, but how we're handling it is uh, we're looking at a need to expand the alliances and the shells we have to control more of the kingdom's area. But yeah, so essentially, projects should be looking to expand increase the amount of alliances that they have in their projects.
Yeah. It's gonna be an interesting time, I think. I'm excited to see how it all shakes out. If anyone is curious or maybe just wants to check out the Shogunate, I'll drop the link in the description. You guys could go look at that. Or if you have a jumper group of your own you want to promote, I do have a channel within my Discord, which is also linked in the description. So you can go check that out too. And that should give you enough exposure. And if you're like, I'm just starting Rise of Kingdoms, what is all of this? You can join those groups and go check it out. I do still believe at this point, even if you're not doing the jump, but you are doing a like fresh start, I do think that being in that group and getting the opportunity to learn from other people and get insight and chat with them is still one of the key and best ways to be able to grow effectively in the early game in Rise of Kingdoms. I firmly believe that. And I think I would always say create 2 accounts, right? One farm, one main, or actually for the first couple weeks, you may just create 2 accounts and see what your luck is with gold keys and stuff and go from there, you know, and not pick a favorite yet. If you guys are curious about that or you want to learn more, be sure to check out my jumper guide on the top right side of your screen. I haven't updated it lately, but jumpers historically haven't changed all that much, but who knows? This may change everything for everyone. Well, Vast, do you have any other thoughts for folks on this? You know, what this change means, or if you think this perhaps gives us insight into some potential other changes that might be coming that aren't here just yet.
So, some insights that I've been discussing with other jumper leaderships is that sleepers could get a change, could get a nerf. They won't go away completely, but there will be a change to the sleeper process at some point within the coming months. So, I would be wary of that if you are trying to make a sleeper account. Now, I see this change for anyone that's being kind of nervous about this change. I say it's going to be pretty fun. It's a pretty fun change. The jumper process in the early game hasn't changed much at all for the past year or two. It's been getting a little dull. I'd say y'all look forward to the change, lean into it, and y'all have a fun time if you're in a good project.
Oh yeah.
That's
And
about it.
And fun fact for those that may have watched to the end and you're thinking, hey, I might want to do this. If you do have an active account already, say it's a farm account, abandon it for 30 days. You get this welcome back event. Used to be called the King's Return. And if that account is below 15 million power, you'll get this a new journey option, which will actually give you some gems and some other stuff when you do create your account in that new kingdom. So just keep that in mind because it's a nice way to get a bump when you start the game. Well, Vass, thank you so much for joining us today. And if you guys haven't already, do hit that subscribe button right over there, bottom right hand corner. Drop a bell so you get notified when new episodes come out. This has been awesome. Vast, I'll see you later.
Yeah, see you, man.
Thank you all. Shappy out.